inside the mind of someone with Alzheimer's disease. Memories are not simply forgotten, but systematically erased like pages torn from a treasured book. Each lost memory represents a connection severed, a piece of identity dissolved into the fog of neurological decline that creeps forward relentlessly. Right now, millions of families watch as the people they love slowly disappear while their bodies remain present and breathing. What if you could understand the invisible destruction happening inside the brain before the first symptom ever appears in daily life? The truth is, Alzheimer's begins its silent work decades before anyone notices a single forgotten name or misplaced key around the house. This is not simply the natural consequence of growing old, but a specific disease with identifiable mechanisms that science can now observe. What if the key to fighting this devastating condition lies in understanding what happens at the cellular level deep within the brain? Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each one a universe of electrical activity connecting you to every memory you have ever formed. These neurons communicate through intricate networks, passing signals across microscopic gaps called synapses with breathtaking speed and precision that enables thought itself. Every conversation you remember, every face you recognize, every skill you have mastered exists as a pattern of connections between these remarkable cells. But in Alzheimer's disease, something goes catastrophically wrong in this elegant system, and the destruction follows a predictable and heartbreaking pattern over time. It begins with the accumulation of abnormal proteins that your brain should naturally clear away during sleep, but somehow fails to remove properly. Beta-Amyloid proteins clump together between neurons, forming sticky plaques that disrupt the delicate communication pathways your memories depend upon for their very existence. Inside the neurons themselves, another protein called tau becomes twisted and tangled, collapsing the cell's internal transportation system like highways buckling under impossible weight. These tau tangles spread through the brain in a specific sequence, moving from the memory centers outward like a slow-motion wildfire consuming everything. The hippocampus, your brain's memory formation center, is often the first region to suffer this assault, which explains why new memories vanish first. Have you, or someone you love, experienced the frustration of asking the same question repeatedly, unable to form new memories that stick and remain? As neurons die, the brain actually begins to shrink, losing volume in regions critical for thinking, planning, and recognizing the faces of loved ones. The spaces between brain tissue widen like cracks in drought-stricken earth, visible on brain scans as dark voids where vibrant neural activity once flourished. Meanwhile, inflammation spreads throughout the brain as immune cells called microglia try desperately to clean up the damage, but instead make everything worse. These well-intentioned defenders release chemicals that create more inflammation, accelerating the death of neurons in a vicious cycle that feeds upon itself relentlessly. The blood vessels in the brain become damaged too, reducing oxygen and nutrient delivery to neurons that are already struggling to survive the onslaught. This is not one simple failure, but a cascade of interconnected breakdowns, each one amplifying the others in a tragic symphony of neurological destruction. How does this microscopic devastation translate into the symptoms that families witness with growing alarm and heartbreak at the dinner table every evening? The earliest signs are subtle, easy to dismiss as normal aging or stress, which is why diagnosis often comes years after the disease began. Forgetting recent conversations while remembering childhood events in vivid detail becomes a hallmark pattern that family members begin to notice with growing concern. Misplacing items in unusual places, like putting car keys in the refrigerator, reflects the brain's deteriorating ability to form logical associations and sequences. Getting lost in familiar neighborhoods happens because the brain's spatial navigation system, centered in the hippocampus, is crumbling under the disease's relentless assault. Language becomes harder as the disease progresses, with people struggling to find common words or calling things by the wrong names entirely without realizing. The ability to make decisions erodes as the frontal lobes, responsible for judgment and planning, accumulate more tangles and lose more neurons daily. Personality changes emerge as different brain regions fail, sometimes causing someone gentle to become aggressive or someone outgoing to withdraw into isolated silence. These changes are not choices or character flaws, but direct consequences of specific brain regions losing their ability to function as they once did. What does current research reveal about who develops Alzheimer's disease and whether anything can slow or prevent this devastating neurological decline at all? Age is the greatest risk factor, with the likelihood doubling every 5 years after age 65, though early onset cases can strike people in their 40s. Genetics play a complex role, with certain genes like APOE4 increasing risk substantially, though having the gene does not guarantee you will develop the disease. Women are more likely to develop Alzheimer's than men, partly because women live longer, but also due to hormonal and biological factors scientists are still unraveling. Head injuries, especially repeated concussions, increase risk by triggering inflammation and protein accumulation that can persist for decades after the initial trauma occurred. Cardiovascular health and brain health are intimately connected, with conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes damaging blood vessels that feed the brain. What's bad for your heart is bad for your brain. A principle that opens doors to prevention strategies based on lifestyle choices you make. Social isolation and loneliness accelerate cognitive decline, while strong social connections and meaningful relationships appear to protect the brain through mechanisms we are beginning to understand. Education and lifelong learning build what scientists call cognitive reserve, a buffer that helps the brain compensate for damage by recruiting alternative neural pathways. Physical exercise increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the growth of new neurons, and reduces inflammation in ways that directly counteract Alzheimer's disease processes. Sleep is when your brain clears away beta-amyloid and other toxic proteins through a waste removal system that only operates efficiently during deep sleep stages. Chronic sleep deprivation allows these proteins to accumulate faster, which is why poor sleep quality in midlife increases Alzheimer's risk decades later in life. Diet matters profoundly, with Mediterranean and MIND diets showing protective effects through their anti-inflammatory properties and support for healthy blood vessels throughout the entire body. Can you remember a time when you prioritized work over sleep, stress over exercise, convenience over nutrition, without considering the long-term consequences for your brain? The truth is, many risk factors for Alzheimer's disease are modifiable, meaning the choices you make today can influence your brain health decades from now. Current treatments cannot cure Alzheimer's or reverse the damage already done, but recent breakthroughs offer hope for slowing progression in the disease's earliest stages. Medications that target beta-amyloid plaques have shown modest benefits in clinical trials, though they work best when started before extensive brain damage has already occurred. This makes early detection crucial, which is why researchers are developing blood tests that can identify Alzheimer's-related proteins years before symptoms appear at all. Imagine catching the disease when only a handful of neurons have died, when the brain still has the capacity to adapt and compensate for losses. Cognitive stimulation through puzzles, learning new skills, and engaging conversations helps maintain neural connections and may slow the rate of cognitive decline over time. Managing other health conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol protects the brain's blood vessels and reduces inflammation that accelerates neurological damage. Hearing loss, surprisingly, is linked to increased dementia risk, possibly because it reduces cognitive stimulation and increases social isolation that harms brain health significantly. Treating hearing loss with hearing aids may help preserve cognitive function, illustrating how interconnected all aspects of health truly are in protecting the brain. What would it mean to you to know that your daily choices about movement, sleep, connection, and learning could influence your cognitive future? The journey through Alzheimer's disease is different for everyone, with some people declining rapidly while others maintain function for years despite brain changes. This variability reflects differences in cognitive reserve, genetics, overall health, and the specific pattern of brain damage that each individual experiences uniquely. For caregivers, watching someone you love disappear into confusion and forgetting is one of the most emotionally devastating experiences a human being can endure. The person may not remember your name, but they can still feel love, comfort, and connection through touch, music, and presence that transcends words. Music therapy often reaches people even in advanced stages because musical memory is stored in brain regions that Alzheimer's damages later in the disease process. Creating a calm, structured environment with familiar routines helps reduce confusion and anxiety for people living with Alzheimer's disease every single day of their lives. Validation rather than correction. Entering their reality rather than insisting on yours preserves dignity and reduces distress for both the person and their caregivers. Respite care and support groups are not luxuries but necessities because caregivers cannot pour from an empty cup without eventually breaking under the weight. What's one small change you could make today that your future brain would thank you for decades from now when memories matter most? Research continues at an unprecedented pace, with scientists exploring everything from lifestyle interventions to cutting-edge immunotherapies that might halt disease progression entirely. Some trials are investigating whether reducing inflammation in the brain can slow Alzheimer's, targeting the immune system's overactive response that damages healthy neurons. Others are looking at ways to enhance the brain's natural protein clearing systems, helping it remove toxic accumulations before they form the plaques and tangles. Stem cell therapies, gene therapies, and precision medicine approaches tailored to individual genetic profiles represent the frontier of Alzheimer's research moving forward rapidly. Clinical trials need participants, and enrolling in research studies contributes to the collective knowledge that will eventually lead to better treatments and perhaps prevention. The brain you have at 80 is shaped by the life you live at 30, 40, 50, and beyond, making every decade an opportunity. Physical activity doesn't have to mean marathon running. Even walking 30 minutes daily increases blood flow and promotes brain health in measurable and significant ways. Mental stimulation can come from reading, learning languages, playing instruments, or any activity that challenges your brain to form new connections and pathways continuously. Social engagement, whether through volunteering, clubs, religious communities, or simply maintaining close friendships, provides cognitive stimulation and emotional support that protects the brain powerfully. Managing stress through meditation, mindfulness, or activities that bring joy reduces chronic inflammation that damages brain cells and accelerates cognitive decline over many years. Your brain is not a static organ, but a dynamic, adaptable system capable of forming new connections throughout your entire life if given the right conditions. Every time you learn something new, your brain physically changes, creating new synapses and strengthening existing pathways in a process called neuroplasticity that never stops. This remarkable capacity for change means that it's never too late to adopt brain-healthy habits that can influence your cognitive trajectory moving forward positively. If you're concerned about memory changes, talking to your doctor early allows for proper evaluation and the opportunity to address treatable causes like vitamin deficiencies. A comprehensive cognitive assessment can establish a baseline, making it easier to detect meaningful changes over time and intervene at the earliest possible stage of decline. Knowing your family history helps you and your healthcare team make informed decisions about screening, lifestyle modifications, and monitoring that suit your individual risk profile. The conversation about Alzheimer's disease should not be whispered in shame, but spoken openly, because understanding reduces stigma and empowers people to take action. Families facing this disease need support, resources, and community, which is why organizations dedicated to Alzheimer's care and research provide invaluable guidance and connection. Financial and legal planning while cognitive function is still intact gives people with early Alzheimer's the dignity of making their own decisions about their future. Advance directives, powers of attorney, and conversations about care preferences are gifts you give to your loved ones, sparing them impossible decisions later. Hope exists not only in future treatments, but in the present moment, in the quality of connection and care we provide to those living with this disease. Every person with Alzheimer's disease is still a person, with a lifetime of experiences, emotions, and inherent worth that transcends their ability to remember. The love you share with someone who has Alzheimer's doesn't disappear even when memories fade, because love lives in the heart, not just the mind. Your brain is your most precious organ, the seat of everything that makes you uniquely yourself, and it deserves your attention and care throughout life. Small, consistent actions compound over decades, building a foundation of brain health that can help you maintain cognitive function well into your later years. The Mediterranean diet rich in vegetables, fish, olive oil, and whole grains provides nutrients that support brain health and reduce inflammation throughout your entire body. 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night gives your brain the time it needs to clear toxic proteins and consolidate memories into long-term storage. Regular social interaction, whether in person or through meaningful digital connection, keeps your brain engaged and provides emotional support that reduces stress and inflammation. Lifelong learning, whether through formal education, hobbies, or simply staying curious about the world, builds cognitive reserve that protects against decline in later life. Managing chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension through medication, diet, and lifestyle protects the delicate blood vessels that feed your brain with oxygen and nutrients. The future of Alzheimer's research is bright, with new understanding emerging daily about how to detect, prevent, and eventually treat this devastating disease effectively. Your choices matter, your habits matter, your relationships matter, not just for today, but for the brain you will carry into your 70s and 80s. If you're experiencing memory concerns or watching a loved one struggle, you are not alone, and resources exist to help you navigate this difficult journey. Knowledge is power. Understanding brings clarity, and hope lives in the actions we take today to protect the minds we will need tomorrow and beyond. Your brain has carried you through every moment of your life, and now it's asking you to carry it forward with intention, care, and hope.